Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've all grown up watching those films like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Black Panther, and many films like Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. We've seen the exponential rise in not only Marvel Cinematic Universe itself, but in superhero genre on its own, and which is what inspired many movies around the globe to make superhero films. For example, Bollywood. What happened recently to Marvel MCU? Why is there a slight decline? Let's find out. So first we're gonna go over what Marvel Cinematic Universe is. Films based on Marvel Comics characters, and movies that are released are divided into phases. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5. They've just recently started phase 5, and to give you context, Avengers Endgame that ended was the end of phase 3. Phase 4 began after that, when the actual decline of Marvel Cinematic Universe began. First we're gonna go over the films that were released in phase 4 and why they didn't work. And then we're gonna go the reasons for overall decline for that in general, not just based on individual films. And then we're gonna go over why the recent movie Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was actually a sigh of relief, why it actually worked, and what holds for the future of MCU and superhero genre itself. Let's begin. Phase 4 started with Black Widow. It is a character that ended in phase 3. People know that there's not going to be any future movies with it. Why have a standalone film now when there's no future for that character? It's too late. They should have made the movie way before Avengers itself. People kept asking for it, that we need a standalone Black Widow film. We need a standalone Black Widow film. And then when they made it, it was too late. People lost interest. Obviously, you're not going to have the character in the future. Why have the movie now? Regardless of the quality of the film, and I don't think it was the best of the quality as well. Second, Shang-Chi, the Legend of Ten Rings. Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. I think they relied a lot more on the martial arts and the action, targeting the Asian audience specifically, but the creators didn't realize that there's already way better martial arts movies that are saturated in that market. They should have tried something new. It's like having, when you go to a neighborhood, a Chinese neighborhood where there's many Chinese restaurants run by the natives, and then a foreigner comes in and opens a Chinese restaurant expecting their restaurant will do better than the others. And that's just not going to happen. It might have been a great film, but you cannot compete when the martial arts movies already have dominated that market. You should have brought out something new. And frankly speaking, the humor is always a letdown in these movies. In this phase, it just didn't work. Eternals. Too many spices spoil the broth. That's what fits this movie. Too many characters within a 2-hour film. You cannot expect people to have 10-character movie and expect it to like it. There's no individual connection to the characters. There's no bigger mission or bigger future for that. It's just so much saturated into one film. You cannot develop anything. They should have introduced those characters way before and then made this film. They expected, it's like having all the characters of the Avengers and forgetting all the backstory of Iron Man, Thor, and all those movies, and straight away jumping to Avengers. You just cannot have that. It doesn't work. Infinity War and Endgame worked because it took them years to introduce those characters, having their standalone films, having their own backstories, and why those backstories are connected to the main Avengers story. Spider-Man. The only exception was Spider-Man No Way Home. Why? Because there's a lot of nostalgia behind it. There was 2 other old Spider-Man characters like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire making a cameo in. Already you're going to have a large chunk of audience going to watch the movie just for them, having a glimpse of them again. And Spider-Man is a character that can stand on its own. Its target audience is very different. It's a younger audience. It's not the same audience of Marvel Cinematic Universe that grew up watching Iron Man and those ones. They're way older now. So the Spider-Man that's been rebooted has a fairly younger audience. They haven't aged as much as yet. But overall, it's a much better film. It's actually quite hilarious. It's entertaining. People don't expect to be a very serious movie. It's Spider-Man. The character itself is very young. So people accept a slight minor faults here and there, and it's entertaining on its own. Doctor Strange and the multiverse of madness. Poor CGI, poor humor, and I think the villain was the biggest backdrop of this film, because the villain had its origin story in a TV show WandaVision that's on Disney Plus Hotstar. Mind you, not everybody has access to Disney Plus, the OTT platform, around the globe. It's only a few countries. And not everybody watches these Marvel or these superhero TV shows. It's Marvel, like these superhero films are meant to be enjoyed on screen, in cinemas. It's meant to be larger than life. Watching a show like that at home, it's not everybody's cup of tea. So people So the creators expecting that people would know the origins of and the backstory of the villain and then come back to watch this film, they were disappointed. And when you have on top of that poor CGI and poor humor, it's a recipe of disaster. Thor: Love and Thunder, poor humor. Thor's character is a god in the movie, in the comics. He's not treated like one. He's shown a little bit too weak. I think it's people didn't really enjoy Thor after Ragnarok itself. The story has been developed well. The character has been developed well. The future seems a little bleak, especially how they ended Endgame with somebody else taking over Thor's place and Thor retiring and all of that. And it's just the development of Thor after Ragnarok was just not good enough, and it just continued. And on top of that, again, poor humor. Forcing humor in every scene, every dialogue is not gonna work. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. May Chadwick Boseman's soul rest in peace. The guy who played Black Panther, he was made for that role. And when people know like he's not gonna be in future movies of Black Panther, the excitement level goes down. It's just not the same anymore when the main character itself is not there in its own standalone film. Even though it was a decent film, but it's just not good enough. It's just not exciting enough for audience to go and watch it. So this was the end of Phase 4. Phase 5 began with Ant-Man and the Wasp. Again, poor humor, poor CGI. And Ant-Man, Black Widow, to an extent Doctor Strange, and maybe even Black Panther to an extent, these characters their best comes out when they're in a multi-star cast films, when they're because the core of Avengers is Captain America and Iron Man. There's characters around it. Spider-Man can stand on its own. Guardians of the Galaxy can stand on its own, but these characters like Black Widow, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, to an extent Thor and Black Panther, you can't expect them to have standalone movies over and over again, and their characters just don't have as strong of a backstory as much as the others do, or they're not just as loved in the cinematic universe. They might be different in the comics. People will come up with me and say, oh, in the comics the story is different, blah blah. It's okay, but we're talking about the cinematic universe. It's just any other film. It's a very forgettable film. It might not be the worst film, but it's just an average film. Marvel can do better. And now, in the Phase 5, why did Guardians of the Galaxy 3 work? We'll go to that, but overall for Marvel's decline in Phase 4 after Endgame was humor. They forget the fact that people who were watching Marvel movies have grown up. What worked back then, not going to work anymore, because people want wiser, smarter, a little more cheeky, more clever dialogues in the humor, more situational based. You can't just have people screaming and being all goofy again. They're not that same age anymore. Timing, they should have waited a bit, give some breathing space after the end game, and come up with some fresh content. They should have planned better. Their planning has been terrible as well. They have not decided what their target audience is going to be. And because of poor planning, and they also hired poor directors. And because of that, when you don't have a target audience in mind, you're just going to trying to turn MCU into a cash cow. They should have waited a bit, planned it out, come up with good content, and then released the film. They didn't wait. They just tried to make as much money as possible because they knew that they had a loyal audience for it already. But you can't have a loyal audience and expect them to digest terrible films as well. So poor planning, bad timing, poor directors, no set of target audience, no set of good new characters who are developed and shown properly. Everything was missing. That's what happens when you just want to milk your past success without concentrating on the content and the quality of the content itself. That's one of the main reasons there's been a big decline in MCU movies. I don't think it's superhero genre on its own. We had superhero genre since like 80s, 90s. It's always going to work if a good film is made with good characters, well written, and well directed. That's it. In my opinion, that's all that's. Now, the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, why it worked. Like I said, it's to begin with, it had a great director to begin with, James Gunn. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 always seemed like it could survive on its own. Because it involves traveling into multiple galaxies, you can introduce new characters without saturating the film. The end possibilities are endless for this movie. It's always going to be larger than life, and it's 4-5 core characters in the movie, and people already are well connected to each character from Guardians of the Galaxy. They love each and every bit of their quirkiness, their individual element that they have. They don't need any more introduction. So that's why people, and to be fair, Guardians of the Galaxy was the only one that didn't seem like it had a conclusion after the event, and people wanted to watch it. And also, they always balanced out humor and drama, which they didn't in the previous Marvel movie. They always tried to force humor in every single scene. They tried to put punchlines without any comic time, without any context of the scene. In Guardians of the Galaxy, the third one, they balanced every bit of it. Where it's meant to be humor, it was hilarious, but they also focused on the drama, on the emotional content itself, which is why the target audience of the movie was not just the younger ones, but the older people as well, who enjoyed it equally. It was not always just goofy humor and childish humor. It was a lot more wiser, a lot smartly written. This movie also worked because towards the end, it has a fairly good conclusion to overall characters of the movie. You get to know a little bit more backdrop of a certain character. I don't want to spoil it. And that's where the whole movie story revolves around. But when you see the conclusion, you're satisfied with each and every character in the film. And to be fair, Guardians of the Galaxy is like mini Avengers on its own. When people are familiar with each character, they love the group, they love the dynamics between them, they love the banter, and which is why it can stand on its own. It doesn't need many other characters to make it more entertaining. And because of that, people were well connected to it. And when there was a good conclusion in the film, people enjoyed it. They were like content with it. But now, all I can say is at the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy third, there's going to be certain new characters going forward. So it'll be very interesting to see how it's going to go forward. Will it be the same director? Will the characters survive on their own with new set of team members in the Guardians of the Galaxy? Is the humor going to change? Is the storyline going to change? Is the target audience going to change? And is it going to take time before it comes out? Also, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy makes sure that there's always breathing space in each film. It doesn't become saturated. Seeing same people, same characters over and over again, it becomes a little dull because people had a huge hangover after the Endgame. People needed some time to digest what happened in the story, and people were just not ready to get introduced to new characters all of a sudden because people were connected for 10 years for that characters, and seeing so many movies saturated all at once again, which is why it didn't work. But Guardians of the Galaxy was introduced way later on. Every film had a good amount of time between each film when they were released, and which is why people always felt fresh and excited when they watched this film. So it will be interesting to see if the fourth part comes out in a couple of years. But Marvel should make sure they don't release because it worked for them and it's a sigh of relief. They're gonna make a film quicker and release it within 1.5 years. It's again not gonna work. So that will be interesting to see how Marvel, after this recent success, it carries itself forward. Is it gonna plan it out better? Is it gonna change some plans? Is it gonna go back to scratch board, or is it just gonna continue milking it as a cash cow? We don't know. We don't even know if they have a plan, if they had a plan before, or if they're coming up with a new plan. But by now, they should know what mistakes they made and why this movie, Guardians of the Galaxy, worked. So they should carry on forward from this. And honestly, they should wait at least 2 years before releasing a movie now. It's too saturated. It's too much within a year. They should make more excitement. What is Marvel going to do next after they got a momentum of success with this film? So we went over the films that didn't work on Marvel Cinematic Universe in the new phase, why generally didn't work and why individually it didn't work. Then we went over why Guardians of the Galaxy worked as compared to the other movies, and we also went over what holds for Marvel Cinematic Universe in the future. So that's it from today's video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please do press the like button and let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think, what you think is the future, what movie worked, what movie you liked, what you didn't, anything related to MCU. Put them in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And then make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'll be making more videos on cinemas all around the globe. I make fashion videos, I make dance covers. I'm going to be doing a lot more content from now onwards every week. And make sure you smash that bell icon as hard as you can so you can get instantly notified whenever I upload a new video. Until the next episode, take care, guys. Keep watching movies and get well dressed soon, and cheers. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.